We've just had our 2-year anniversary.
Play the theme music. Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alun and I'm here with the ever archaeological Adam.
Is that a dig?
What? Oh, we're here. We're physically here making jokes already. My goodness, if it hasn't been the most wonderful journey to get where we are now. Tripology has been going for more than 2 yeyears.
Yeah, end of December was our 2-year anniversary, which it's quite crazy because I think when we started, we did have conversations. We thought, we wanted to give it everything we had, but I don't know whether we knew that it would be going every single week for 2 years.
I didn't know it. I thought 3 weeks tops. and what I can't believe is that the last year particularly has been the most crazy year of travel I've ever done.
Which is saying something.
I know. And to have it end here with you physically in the same space as me. I mean, what a wonderful way. Fans of the pod know that due to a game of Tripping Point, won by yours truly, Adams was forced onto a plane. He's met me here in Scotland. And we're in, my parents' living room, which has been there. They've had to leave.
Turned into a Tripology studio, which is what they signed up for.
Yep. So here we are in the latest iteration of the Tripology studio.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a lamb's wool fleece, tencel underwear, and bamboo socks, which can only mean we're in a post-Christmas realm where your whole wardrobe gets refreshed at Christmas time, doesn't it?
Yeah, yours might do. I mean, I'm still wearing some old stuff that I was handed down from another traveller over in Korea.
Well, I've got a pair of bamboo socks you can borrow just in the other room. I'd like it if we just spruced ourselves up because we are going travelling again very, very soon.
We are, separately, I think. But it is nice to have this little period where we can join forces, create some content, chat about what we've been doing over the last 4 months, because it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
It's been too much of a whirlwind. I think in the last few episodes of Tripology, we've been flitting around. You were in Taiwan, I was in Georgia. We were trying to cram a load of stuff in. So in this episode, I want to pump the brakes ever so slightly because there's so much that happened to me.
Yeah.
And I want to really, in meticulous detail, go through exactly what that was. Because I went, after Georgia, which we heard about last week, I went to Turkey.
Yeah.
With the specific aim of kind of seeing what was going on in the ancient realm. There's some ancient wonders in Turkey that I've been very, very interested in for a long time.
I don't know whether Turkey's in the conversation for most people when it comes to discovering ancient civilizations, because I think lots of people know about Mayans, lots of people know about Aztecs, lots of people know about, of course, the Egyptians.
Yeah.
But I mean, the history in Turkey goes back quite some way, doesn't it?
Yeah, they've just not... The marketing team for the ancient Turks was not as good as that of the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians, they wrote everything down in very colourful ways. They made people go, pyramids, my goodness. But a lot of stuff happened in the real ancient world in Turkey, and it's stuff I've been interested in for a long time. You might know that I've been obsessed with a particular Neolithic site, Göbekli Tepe, since time immemorial.
Yeah, we've had a number of conversations about it. I've been aware of it ever since that wonderful Graham Hancock series on Netflix.
Graham Hancock, he wrote Fingerprints of the Gods, and then he did a series called Ancient Apocalypse. Check it out. But he's, labelled by many to be a pseudoscientist.
Yeah.
He posits this idea that basically there was a huge disruptive cataclysmic apocalyptic event which wiped out ancient civilizations and all their technologies to almost extinction, and then certain people carried those technologies and taught the ancients how to build certain structures and things like that, and basically kick-started the world again in just after the Younger Dryas period.
It's absolutely amazing when you think about it. Funnily enough, one of the places he covered was just south of where I was living in Canada, over the border in the US.
That was an area where they thought that maybe some glacial floods happened and wiped out a civilization there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's no surprise that you're interested in this sort of thing. Yeah. And I've got a lot of experience in Turkey, but unfortunately it's only in a sort of holiday maker, very touristic sense. So it's somewhere that I'm very lucky to have been, I don't know, 15 times maybe, but to very specific resorty type locations. But of course, being exposed to Turkish people, Turkish culture, Turkish food, which I hope you ate a lot of.
Yep.
Yeah, I was very eager for you to go and for you to tell me what you thought of it.
Well, I think Turkey is a country of two halves in many ways. Oh, I mean, as is every country, if you divide it down the middle. But
Like Korea.
Korea, very much two countries of two halves. Look, Turkey, you've got the western side, which is where the Brits go. You know, that's where you've got your Antalya, you've got your Istanbul.
Yeah, your Marmaris.
All that sort of stuff. And on the east, it's very much an Islamic nation, a very ancient history nation. There's a lot of stuff. It's not the most accessible travel.
Totally, yeah.
So I beeline from Georgia straight down to Şanlıurfa, which is mentioned in the Bible potentially as the birthplace of Abraham.
Wow.
Also, you
That's
know,
incredible.
Abraham, obviously a significant figure in the Quran, a significant figure in the Bible, in the Torah.
It had been a couple of minutes since you mentioned religion, so I'm glad you got that in there.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned it because there was multiple reasons I was interested in Şanlıurfa, and one of them was the fact that it was the birthplace of Abraham, and I actually went to the site where Abraham was born, and it was quite an interesting religious pilgrimage. But the main reason I was there is because it's close to Göbekli Tepe. Now, Göbekli Tepe got a lot of media attention when it was sort of discovered. It was only really excavated to completion in the late 90s.
Wow.
And it was found a little before then. And it's only been open to the public since the 2000s, you know?
Yeah.
It's posited as the oldest neolithic site ever discovered.
Yeah.
And they think it was built around 9,500 BCE.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard about, and I had to go and see it for myself.
Oh, doesn't it predate is it the pyramids by thousands of years?
Oh, like thousands of years. The conventional Egyptology suggests that the pyramids are about 4,000 years old. Some people think they're about 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, at minimum, Göbekli Tepe is like 12,000 years old.
Wow. I think what it does, some people say it's rewritten what we think of as sort of human history, right?
Right.
And that it challenges the idea that we were sort of hunter-gatherers at that time, because it was pretty advanced in terms of its construction and even its orientation.
It was discovered by a farmer, and he just like uncovered when he was doing some stuff in his farm. He uncovered these T-shaped blocks, these huge ton stones that had intricate carvings on, and then an archaeological team went and excavated it. But what it proves is that at a time where we thought people were just going and hunting and gathering, they at least had agriculture in order to sustain the building community that was making that megalith.
Oh, right. Okay, so that's what it implies. That's
you
interesting.
can't have a megalithic structure like that unless you're like feeding your population somehow.
Yeah,
Because you just can't generate enough energy, enough calories by hunting and gathering to build something like that. So either it means what Graham Hancock would posit, that someone gave that community agriculture and therefore allowed them to build Göbekli Tepe.
Right.
Or what the official line is of the archaeological team at Göbekli Tepe. They say that perhaps the people wanted to build a megalithic structure and that necessitated them developing agriculture.
Are there any sort of carvings, drawings of any kind on the stones themselves? Any inscriptions or?
Yeah, so I went to the archaeological museum first, which is a beautiful archaeological museum, and then took the bus out to Göbekli Tepe, and you come up on it, and it's a huge kind of football pitch sized things with different enclosures. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit small. I've never played football. But it's a large complex with different enclosures, and each enclosure has these megalithic stones all around it, and on the stones intricate carvings of birds that potentially line up with constellations, prey animals and boars, and all these different carvings that obviously had huge significance to the people at the time. Wow. It was awesome, man.
I do remember, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, from one of the episodes, I think it was about Göbekli Tepe, of course, that we are able to see what the sky would have looked like at the time when this is supposedly to have been built. So, yeah, I think they can line certain stones up with stars and things, which is incredible, really, because I think they had a better reading of the sky back then than we do now.
You got to remember, right, that we live in a world where entertainment is so prolific.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
for the people back then, looking up at the night sky was the greatest show. Every single night. There was no light pollution. So you just had this incredible thing to ruminate on every single night. So of course they had a better understanding of like the way the night sky worked and developed over time.
Yeah, wow. Was it quite busy when you were there?
It was a little busy, but still not busy enough that it would pervert your time there, really.
Okay.
It was nice. It was still untouristy enough. I took a bus there. I was the only tourist on the bus from the museum in Sanliurfa all the way to Göbekli Tepe.
All right.
The bus was really cheap. Entry to the museum itself is like a little expensive, but it gets you access to the museum on site as well. It was still in its infancy of tourism, I feel like.
Right. Are there guides offering sort of guided tours and stuff like that?
Because the museum's so like an eminent force in that town, Sanliurfa Archaeological Museum and then the Archaeological Museum at Göbekli Tepe are just two huge like composites of information. So not really.
Yeah,
There's actually another site called Karahan Tepe, which is an active excavation site that your ticket to Göbekli Tepe covers as well. But it's incredibly hard to get there. You have to have your own car to get there.
Your own car as well?
Yeah, there's no bus routes or anything. It's off. The taxis don't even know really the routes. You can ask a taxi driver in Sanliurfa, can I go to Karahan Tepe? They'll be like,
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
How is it a full day then to spend at the museum and also the sites?
Yeah, you can do the Sanliurfa Archaeological Museum and then Göbekli Tepe is sort of like a one-day thing.
Yeah, God, I bet you were in your element, weren't you?
Dude, it was amazing. It was one of those times where you go and see something that's ostensibly a tourist attraction, an archaeological site that's become a tourist attraction. It blew my mind. Looking at those huge T-shaped building structures and thinking 12,000 years ago, there were people who were carving into that rock. Human beings who existed, before ancient Egypt. You've got to remember, ancient Egypt, with the pyramids at Giza, they coexisted, albeit in completely different locations, at the time the woolly mammoth was around.
Yeah.
We're talking about 12,000 years ago, a world that looked nothing like the world today. But there was people looking at the sky and making art and building things. And it was a community of people working together to create this structure. That's awesome.
It is incredible. Have they got any idea of how many people would have lived in that location at the time it was constructed and what it was used for at the time?
So they don't know what the purpose of Göbekli Tepe or Karahan Tepe was, but they think there's many of these all over those hills. Yeah. And what's even more incredible is the fact that the only reason Göbekli Tepe still exists, the only reason it's there for us to discover today, is because it was deliberately backfilled by the people. So 12,000 years ago, 9,500 BCE, they deliberately abandoned Göbekli Tepe and filled it with dirt to protect it.
Are you thinking in order for it to be discovered many years down the line?
The only reason it still exists and hasn't been completely destroyed is because they filled it and covered it carefully.
How would they even work that out? Is it because the dirt that's been used, the material that's been used to fill and bury Göbekli Tepe comes from somewhere completely different, or
they just know that that's dirt that's been worked and
sure.
Archaeologists, they have amazing ways of discovering a lot of different things. So
maybe it doesn't seem like natural sedimentation or something like that.
Yeah, sure. So they just know that it's been deliberately protected in order to hide it from someone else or to preserve it for future generations.
God, I'd absolutely love to go there. I'd love to go there. It's one of the top things to do in Turkey now. Sure, it must be.
Yeah, I mean, it's still in the part of Turkey that's less frequented.
Right.
And I met many travelers who were, in Georgia, having come from Turkey, or in Armenia, and none of them had been to Göbekli Tepe and didn't know what it was. So I still think it's kind of a cultish, kind of little travel gem.
Yeah, there's a number of chambers or something. I've got it in my head, and I don't want to do it a disservice, but it's almost circular, isn't it?
Yeah. With enclosures. It's like there's like 5 enclosures within a larger circle.
And do they think it was all built at the same time, or was it added to over time? Do you know that?
Well, that's one of Hancock's big mysteries about Göbekli Tepe, is that it seems like they were just good at it straight away. It's not like one practice enclosure and then a good enclosure, and then they slowly built up to building this megalith. It's just suddenly we have megalithic technology.
God. That sort of stuff really fascinates me. Do you know about it before you watched the Graham Hancock thing?
I heard about it from a traveling friend ages ago, like back in 2015.
Oh, it's somewhere that I'd really love to go. Is that the best thing you've done over in Turkey, would you say?
I think it was like one of my favorite travel things this year, in a year that's been like an incredible year for travel. I think it was like stands out to me as being something which was just changed my perspective. One of those rare travel things that you come away from and you're like, oh, I understand the vastness of time more now.
Jesus. And when did you make the decision not to go to the other site?
Because I tried to go to the other site hard. I was like on couch surfing, messaging random Turks from Stanley Urfa saying, is there any chance you can just take me? I'll pay you some money. Like, I was really trying to go to Karahan Tepe.
What's the distance between the two again?
Like an hour in a car.
Oh, okay. And going to be too expensive, obviously.
Yeah, it would have been like $60 there, $60 back. There's worse things to spend $120 on, but Karahan Tepe is like an archaeological site. So sometimes you could have a great experience where you go and get to talk to the lead archaeologist and he's there. And
really?
Stuff. I've heard people online say they've had that experience. And then other people have gone and it's just like a load of unexplained kind of enclosures.
Are they still excavating the site as we speak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Still learning stuff every day as well.
Both sites? Or
no, just Karahan Tepe.
Oh, right.
And then there may be other enclosures elsewhere in the hills that they've not yet gone to.
It's scary, isn't it, to think about? Because, you know, you've obviously read a lot more about this than I have, but I do like fantasizing about ancient civilizations and thinking, you know, if there was a civilization that was far more advanced than we maybe first thought, what else does that suggest? Because I know that Graham Hancock's bugbear is that people in the mainstream and certainly Egyptologists are like almost refusing to accept.
It's difficult to get archaeological theories past ingrained archaeological culture.
Yeah.
Because like you can have a theory about what Göbekli Tepe was and what it was used for. And even if that theory makes sense, you have to prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt before it will ever be accepted by modern archaeologists. And on that, you know, I'd love to go to a meditation break because there's another 2 ancient sites in Turkey that I would love to go into detail about. And both of them kind of have like mythological origins and potential beginnings that aren't confirmed.
Oh, nice one.
Let's go
wait. Alan, we should make a place where fans of the show can listen to episodes, read articles, and maybe contact us.
Done it.
What?
Tropologypodcast.com.
Oh, should we put a link in the description?
It's already there.
You are good.
Like an ancient stone carving mysteriously depicting a constellation on the side of a big megalithic rock, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain. Not only am I here talking to you about Göbekli Tepe and all that stuff, but you're physically next to me in the same realm, which is, I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
It is, yeah. It is. I've missed you very dearly, mate. And I don't want to use an old cliche, but it has flown by, hasn't it?
Yeah, the time when we're not together always flies by in anticipation of the next time that we are. And that's the beautiful thing about friendship. Mate, we'll just talk to you about Göbekli Tepe and the ancient civilization and how amazing that was and life-changing for me. It whet my appetite for ancient civilizations to such a degree. I couldn't get enough of them when I was in Turkey.
Well, it seems like the place, doesn't it? And it's no surprise. You recommend highly that people go to Göbekli Tepe, even if they're not necessarily interested in ancient civilizations and stuff. It is that eye-opening, I suppose, and that important in human history.
Yeah, I think so. If you're a curious human being who listens to Tropology Podcast, those 2 things tell me enough about you that I think you'll enjoy Göbekli Tepe.
And one last question that I could have asked in the first half, but just how big are these structures in comparison to, say, us, a human, a person standing next to one of the rocks?
Yeah, so at Stanley Urfa, they actually have a life-size reconstruction of enclosure D.
Right.
That's like being laser scanned, so the proportions are exactly the same.
Oh, wow, yeah.
When you're looking down at Göbekli Tepe,
yeah,
you don't get as much of a sense as when you're walking into the reconstruction of enclosure D, and it's like 10 foot tall, like huge.
Wow.
Like it triple, maybe actually taller, like triple my size.
Yeah. I don't know if this
15 foot.
15 foot? Triple your size, 15 foot. Walking around ancient, these structures and stuff, I always think, and I don't know if this is really the best way to think about it, but if I was tasked with reconstructing it, would I be able to achieve it?
No.
And
I think you're talented. I'm the number 1 fan. I love you. But I think it takes an understanding of agriculture that you don't have to feed yourself on the grain.
And engineering, probably,
Yeah.
that I just wouldn't be able to,
Oi, have you ever heard of Cappadocia?
Yes.
Cappadocia. That's what I was singing when I was going around there. I like it. It sounds like maybe quite an American term for something that's cool, I think. Like Cappadocia, baby.
Yeah, it does. What surfers might say on the West Coast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how did I surf that wave? Cappadocia.
Cappadocia.
I went there.
Yeah.
I saw the hot air balloons.
Yeah. From being inside a hot air balloon yourself?
Just from the balcony of an hotel.
You didn't do the hot air balloon ride?
No.
Why not?
I've already been in a hot air balloon, and I like hot air balloons, but I actually think Cappadocia, I've not been in a hot air balloon, so I can't say for certain.
Right.
I think probably not the place to do hot air ballooning, because everyone's also doing it. The main thing you'll see is other hot air balloons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, obviously that is super Instagram famous. It's beautiful, aesthetic. It's the one thing that lots of people want to do when they go to Turkey.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's sort of maybe underwhelming?
Well, no, I'm sure it looks amazing, but going hot air ballooning in Cappadocia would be like going scuba diving in a pool with lots of other scuba divers, as if the main thing to see when doing a thing is other people doing the thing.
Right, I understand what you mean. You think it'd be more spectacular if you were the only person?
I'd say so.
Really?
I'd say hot air ballooning must be... I think the most beautiful thing about it is the views that you can see, not the other tourists doing the same thing as you.
Yeah. Did you? Do you know how much it was to do one of these rides? It's got to be $100, $200.
I think it was actually only like $75 or something to go up in a hot air balloon. If you've got a spare $75, I'm sure it's beautiful.
Yeah,
but I would prefer less people doing it.
Yeah,
because I can see the hot air balloons from a balcony. So if the main thing you're seeing when you're up there is other hot air balloons, stay on the ground.
I mean, you're nowhere near as high as you would be, surely, on a balcony than you would be if you're up in the air on a hot air balloon.
No, the hot air balloons were above me.
Yeah.
But then when they were landing, they came down to my level. So I saved money.
At least twice in the journey, they would have been roughly the height that you were at.
Yeah. But that's what they say about hot air balloons. If you go up some stairs, for some of their journey, you're higher than that.
Yeah. No, you can't argue that. The thing with hot air balloons, and I don't know a lot about how they work, but I would be quite frightened.
I have been in one before, and it felt quite safe.
Did it?
Now a lot of it is computer-based.
No way.
A lot of hot air ballooning, mate, is done on an Apple MacBook M1.
Send us one in the post.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I just think, because I don't understand them, I mean, not that I understand planes and I still get in those, but I think I'd be quite terrified. Are they unstable?
Depends on the wind. But we're living in a world
or
where
who you're with in the hot air balloon, I imagine.
We're living in a world where you can pilot unsuccessfully a submarine with an Xbox controller.
Right,
so the world's changing, Adam, and before long, I felt quite secure in the hot air balloon.
Yeah.
And not just emotionally, physically as well, secure. So I would recommend it, but if I did it in the King's Valley in Egypt.
Nice.
And my favourite thing about it was,
name drop there.
Looking down at the King's Valley.
Mm-hmm. With fewer air balloons.
Very little in the way of other hot air balloons, and I like that fact. That's all I'm saying. So the reason I went to Cappadocia wasn't for the hot air balloons.
So alternative.
The reason I went to Cappadocia was because of an ancient site.
Go on. Which one was it?
Derinkuyu.
I mean, I've not heard of it myself.
You've not. And I hadn't heard of it either, but the person I was travelling with, I love him to bits.
Mm-hmm.
I have travelled with him before.
Yeah.
He's an alternative character.
Yeah. With
alternative decisions, an alternative brain, an alternative way of doing things. And he said to me, Alun, oh, I noticed you're not wearing any shoes. And went, don't worry about that. Let me tell you about Derinkuyu. He doesn't wear any shoes. And I thought, amazing. Like he told me all about it.
Yeah.
He said, Alun, Derinkuyu is an ancient cave structure.
Nice.
That at its peak was home to 20,000 people.
Really? 20,000?
20,000 people.
That's around the same size as the town I used to live in Canada.
Yes.
Which wasn't in a cave.
It's an underground city
Mm-hmm.
that exists just a short distance away from Cappadocia.
Right. Actually, shit, I think I do know about this.
It's 445 square kilometers in size.
About the size of a football pitch.
Yeah, 2 football pitches squashed together.
No, that's a massive area.
There's tunnels there that are 9 kilometers long.
Oh my goodness.
It goes down 85 meters below the surface. It's a huge, huge site.
That is difficult to comprehend, actually.
Well, it's difficult to comprehend that I remember all those facts so easily. Let me tell you this. So now, this is the controversial thing. We know that in the sort of 7th century, Christians hid there from Islamic raids.
Right. Okay.
So it was being used. So whenever they carbon date objects found in the cave, it turns up to 7th century. It was the Christians hiding from the Islamic raids. There we go. They lived inside those tunnels in Derinkuyu.
That you can walk in. You can explore them as a tourist.
I've walked in there, maybe. I've gone down. I'll tell you that in a minute. But there's an ancient alternative history which has been suggested by people like Graham Hancock.
Right.
That potentially ancient civilizations used those caves to hide from meteor showers and evade cataclysmic events.
Oh, I like that.
There's some evidence, like the way that the tunnels were carved, that suggests that people much earlier, I'm talking like a few thousand years BCE, was carving inside those tunnels and made them originally.
Oh, so does that mean the cave system potentially already existed? Those chambers had already been carved out and then were occupied many years later by perhaps, say, Christians.
Yeah, opportunistically.
Yeah.
Opportunistic hiding places for Christian hiders.
That's... But, I mean, living underground, certainly in places like Turkey, where it does get very hot, it's dry, it's arid, could have also been protection from the sun, I imagine. Live underground, slightly cooler.
Yeah, I mean, there was meteor showers in the area that might have been really problematic for an ancient civilization living out there. And I know that certain people posit that perhaps people would just go down there and shelter for 4 months at a time. And then that civilization would then come out and dwell back around Cappadocia and then go back in if there was any problems. It was like a bunker city.
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, it must have been constructed over a number of years, surely.
You'd imagine so, yeah, and expanded. But you go down there, and you can see. Obviously, there's the modern history as well. But rooms have been carved. There's hearths. There's like a number of different dwellings that clearly people lived in. There's a more modern area that was clearly dug in the 7th century, which is like for water filtration. There's a huge water basin there and stuff. But it's this huge place that you can explore and go around. It's phenomenal.
Are there any really large chambers where you can see what
football match?
What goes between them, like staircases and stuff, or is it all tight tunnels?
Yeah, there's staircases, there's wells, there's 50 ventilation shafts that run down from the ceiling to the floor. Like these huge ventilation systems, so you're always getting fresh air.
They go right the way up to the top.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you can crane out and see back. You can see the sunlight coming in through these ventilation shafts, and then
that's incredible. I'm trying to picture it in my head. Is it quite sort of basic in the way it's been excavated, or have they got really really straight lines and corridors?
Yeah, no, it looks like it's been carved by stone tools.
Hand.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's raking marks where they've taken tools and scored out chunks of rock.
Has it been fortified or reinforced by people later on to kind of open up as a tourist attraction? Can you walk around a lot of it and it feels quite safe?
Yeah, but it feels very claustrophobic.
Oh, is it
very, very
tight? They put lights in there? Right?
There's some lights in there, yeah. And there's makeshift doors as well that people have put in. Presumably the Christians, like huge rock kind of turning boulders that you can roll to the side.
Yeah. Well, what do they do for food? Do you know?
Well, this is it. Presumably they only stayed there for a certain amount of time. It would never have been a permanent dwelling for any civilization, but for 4 months they could take supplies down there. Because obviously they have to defecate and stuff down there as well, right? So
you would have thought so,
yeah. You bag that up and take it back with you when the meteor shower's over.
Couldn't they have used it for fuel like the old Nepalese?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was mainly yak feast. Human feces famously makes a very inefficient fuel.
Well, hang on, did they have animals down there as well then?
Well, maybe.
I think I've seen a documentary where they said that there were perhaps animals being kept down there as well.
Dude, it was really amazing. It feels like a city that you're going round and down, and it's still, if it was in the West, it would be really reinforced and stuff like that. But oftentimes, me and my friend were just exploring. We just had open access to a huge well with a 55-meter drop, where if you just took a wrong step, you'd fall down it. It was crazy to see.
Wicked. That's crazy. Him walking around with no shoes on.
Yeah, I know. Completely shoeless he was. Going around there. How alternative.
I would have loved to have done that. That's really cool. How much of it can you explore? Does it feel like you can get around?
A lot of it.
Wow.
And oftentimes we just go completely off piste and like go through someone's house and then up into a different corner, and another room would open up and there was no other tourists there, and you're like, wow, this is like a little secret bit of Derinkuyu.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I loved it.
And what's the entrance fee, just out of interest? Do you remember?
Oh, it's not as expensive as Göbekli Tepe, like 20 euros, something like that.
20
off
euros.
the top of my head.
Full day, half a day?
Oh, half a day. Half a day for that one.
Underground.
Very factual question, very formative.
Yeah, well, I love stuff like that. I think people would be really interested in going to see Göbekli Tepe. And can you do both within like a couple of days of each other? Are they close enough that you can go from one to the other?
Sanliurfa to Cappadocia is but an overnight bus, you could do it.
Oh, we love an overnight bus on this show, don't we?
Cappadocia now is coming into it's the popular part of Turkey. It's really like well visited part of Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one side, I mean, I want to carry on going with the ancient wonders, mate, because look, Turkey, I think, is an ancient just a hub. There's so much amazing ancient stuff. And probably the most famous one is Ephesus. Have you ever heard of Ephesus?
I have heard of it. I've not been there myself, I'm ashamed to say. But
so it's like kind of like the opposite of Derinkuyu, in that this ancient city that it exists almost completely above the ground.
Yeah.
And it's the most amazing city, ancient ruin that I've ever been to. It's like truly awesome.
Was it ruined by a meteor shower by any chance?
Yeah, the same meteor shower that people were protecting themselves from. Yeah, it's right, really incredible. It was created by basically the oracles of Delphi told this guy. Right. His name was Androcles.
Okay, right? Well pronounced.
They told him that wherever he found a boar and a fish, that's where he should start this city.
Okay.
And he's hunting around the area and he's frying a fish.
Right.
And it falls out of the pan and a boar comes running across and he goes, oh, well, this is it.
There you go. There's, written in the stars.
So he makes this city and it is a huge, big, beautiful, ancient Greek city. And at some point they build this temple to Artemis there.
Right.
And an army comes to invade, and in accordance with the tenets of Artemis, they tie a string around the city balcony.
Okay.
And when the army comes, they meet that string and they just get like perplexed and turn around and leave. They're like, oh, I don't want any of the string smoke, right? I don't want any of this.
Right.
So then the people of Ephesus go, oh my God, Artemis protected us.
Yeah.
And they build the most amazing temple to Artemis. Artemis is the god of the hunt, the goddess of like nature and raw natural power. So it's like Demeter is flowers and all that sort of stuff. Artemis is like hunt.
Nice.
So they build the most amazing temple to her. It becomes a wonder of the ancient world. And Ephesus is sort of the city that was built around that. It had 250,000 inhabitants.
My goodness.
It survived all the way through the Greek period. Cleopatra and Antony visited there. It became the Roman trading hub to Asia.
Wow.
One of the capital cities of Rome. Eventually that temple to Artemis was completely ruined. It now just stands as just one pillar. It was ruined. It was destroyed by Christians. It was burned.
What are they like?
What are they like? But Artemis, I went to the Temple of Artemis, the old site of it. Just one pillar and a pack of stray dogs. No entrance, no nothing. Like, it's just completely ruined.
My God. What sort of size are we talking?
The Temple of Artemis?
Yeah.
About the size of a football pitch. But Ephesus is like the size of a modern day town. It's that you can walk around it freely.
Wow.
40 euros entrance fee.
Yeah.
But the most well-preserved ancient city I've ever been to. You can see shops with like the placards in Greek, like written on the outside.
Oh my goodness.
You can see like mosaic floors of terraced housing. You can see the old plumbing where shit would go to the sea.
Like gutter systems and this sort of stuff.
All that sort of stuff.
What about areas where people would congregate, like courtyards and all this sort of stuff?
Acropolises, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, where like the agros and stuff, where people would congregate, meet, have like social events, amphitheaters for comedy, for later gladiator fights.
That's incredible.
An amphitheater that was originally set up by the Greeks and then later co-opted by the Romans.
Yeah.
And they added a back wall so the acoustics were better when the people were speaking. It would bounce off the back wall and then everyone could hear. It was like so well preserved. There's a big library building.
I guess there's absolutely no question then about that. It's like so obviously a town that was inhabited by tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
I mean,
so much so there's score marks on the road so that people's sandals would have more grip.
Really?
Yeah.
That's been proven to be the reason why.
Yeah. Well, it's also well documented because the Greeks and the Romans wrote down so much.
And were you also discovering this with our friend who doesn't wear shoes?
Well, so he didn't come because he felt like it wasn't particularly an area of his interest. He was more interested in like ancient Derinkuyu and all that sort of stuff. And it was, let's face it, $40 is a lot. €40 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It is.
But it was one of the greatest things that I saw in my time in Turkey.
Yeah. Again, I would absolutely love to go. I bet you were exploring it all day, were you?
That is a whole day.
That is
like I went and I spent 6 hours exploring Ephesus.
Really,
just walking around the city.
That's incredible.
Going into the public baths, going up to the top of the amphitheater and back down. There's an experience there as well that's included in your ticket price, which is like, it's not a museum. It's like an augmented reality sort of thing where you go into a room and there's projections on all the walls showing the history of the Temple of Artemis and Ephesus. Really cool to see. One of the best like museum-y experiences that I've ever been privy to.
Yeah. I mean, the area itself and when it was inhabited, how many thousands of years ago do they think that was again?
Oh, ancient Greece. So whenever ancient Greece was, I think.
Yeah, I don't.
Put me under pressure.
But for any fans who are interested in ancient civilizations, I mean, get yourself over to Turkey. Yeah. How many weeks do you think they need to explore? Because surely, like, less than 2, you're pushing it, aren't you? If you want to get around and give everything enough time.
Yeah, no, I think 3 weeks minimum for Turkey, and a month's better.
Well, 3 weeks only seeing ancient civilizations and exploring that sort of side?
If you were going from the far east of Turkey all the way to the west and you wanted to spend some time in Istanbul and all that, you need a month minimum, I would say.
God. I mean, you save a bit of time and money not doing the hot air balloon ride.
Yeah, but people do 2 weeks just in Antalya on the beach.
Also true. Do you think it's a bit of a shame that people go to Turkey, like me, and don't see that side of it?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think people write off the East as being too complicated to travel. There's even like you can Google it and it will tell you that maybe the East isn't safe. Again, experienced a massive amount of kindness and beautiful people in the East. So,
well, let's quickly talk about that then, because Eastern Turkey, and I mean, I've been told by people in Western Turkey who are from Eastern Turkey, it isn't the safest place for tourists to go, but it's great that you received sort of kindness and were treated really well.
I arrived in Trabzon off the bus from Georgia and went to a kebab shop my first day.
Yeah.
And the guy said, "Oh, so nice that you've come here to Trabzon. Have a drink for free. Have a free apple. I'll give you another kebab for free. Like, thank you so much for coming." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm back in like the kind of kindness we experienced in Pakistan, the kind of we experienced in certain parts of India." It felt like I was coming home in some sort of way.
Oh God.
Trabzon was the furthest east I went, and it was incredibly safe.
Yeah.
I was on the border, when I was in Sanliurfa. I was on the border there of Syria, right?
Yeah, sure.
So it's, a little bit, it's complicated.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of refugees there.
Okay.
But
were you being told by locals that you were safe, or was there any sort of mention that it was a bit hot around the border or anything like that?
There was like more police checks and stuff.
Oh, fair. You had to get your passport out a few times.
There's more police checks, and it was, I had to get my passport out and give it away. But all in all, felt very, very safe the whole time I was there.
Wicked. Have you got any other recs for people that want to go to Turkey?
I mean, definitely spend some time in Istanbul. There's amazing food and stuff there, but just try and get those untouched little sites. Like, really go to Göbekli Tepe, of course. go to Derinkuyu. The ancient sites are what make Turkey amazing. You can skip going to Hagia Sophia for €45. Spend that money, go to some of the ancient sites where no one else goes to.
Yeah, well, I think that's a new thing probably this side of COVID and the pandemic, isn't it? So anyone who is going to Turkey, just remember if you're going to go to Hagia Sophia, the mosque, that is a blue mosque, isn't it?
Yeah, Blue Mosque is the other side.
The other side?
Next to each other.
So you can go to that one?
Yeah, Blue Mosque's free of charge.
Maybe go to that one instead.
There you go.
That's wicked, mate. I love it.
Yeah.
I've got to get over there. I'm sorry I wasn't there to do it with you because it is something I would have loved to have done.
Next time, Adam, next time. But you've also been on your own crazy adventure. So we'll get to talking about that next week, will we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait. There's loads to share. I will talk to you about my time in South Korea. I did an amazing 3 weeks there. It was far colder than I anticipated, so I was complaining about the temperature and the fact that I didn't take enough clothes. But I can't wait to talk to you about it, mate. It was wonderful.
There you go. If you guys want to get in touch, it's tropologypodcast.com. We've got a contact form there to ask us any questions. Instagram @tropologypodcast.
Yeah, and if you want to check us out, the extra little bit that we do after the show called Lost and Found, patreon.com/tropologypodcast. We're going to go there right now.
Yeah, let's go there now.
See you there. Bye.